Do you mind checking that you actually can hear and that stuff? Last time it was not recording sound.
Yeah.
Trust.
You have twice this much.
Yeah, once happened there, and I said, "Oh, those machines are crap," and so I started bringing mine. But I think it may be the network, or Google sucks. It's okay. I work for Amazon, so I can say that. Okay, Shamira is here probably.
Yeah, I joined.
You joined? Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Cool. Now can you mute? Cool. Yes. Hi. So we can start looking at a review. And actually, do I have this guy? Yeah. Cool. So let's do it in Eclipse. And maybe we'll rotate. How would that? I'll do the first one. This focuses more on the latest material, right? We had a review for the midterm that actually had stuff on loops. I'm assuming that now you can do all of that stuff. And still classes and objects is what we covered last, although hopefully we have done 5 or 6 classes. So they should start becoming automatic. So let's do a fraction with a bunch of methods. So a constructor, numerator and denominator. So I'm going to create fraction, and I'm going to ask for a main just so we can test stuff. What are going to be our fields? Let's make them private just for fun. What's a fraction? Numerator and denominator, right? Now, we have a constructor that takes 2 int parameters. Constructor, same name as this, right? Same name as the class. Let me do it this way. Do the parameters have to have those names? No, right? But this is the numerator equals to numerator. That's why do we need the this? This dot numerator is this guy, whereas just numerator is this guy. Right? Yay, we have methods. Life is good. Actually, I need to make sure that this guy's public. This static. We tend to do public static for stuff like main. Would static go here? No, right? That would make it a class method rather than an instance method. Right? The constructor is an instance method. You could have factory methods that return stuff, but definitely not in the constructor, and I don't think not in any of these methods. Get numerator, public int get numerator. and get denominator. And then 2 double, it returns a double, the equivalent decimal. So public double 2 double, what do we return? Yes. This is kind of the standard way because it works. If you put the cast, what happens if you put the cast here? No, because the division gets done first. It would work if you do it like this, right? But if you just do it like this, the parentheses are not there, but the parentheses would mean this. And so that means you do the division as ints and then cast to a double. If we put it the other way, we don't need parentheses.
Time multiplied with 1.0.
That also works, yeah. I don't like doing the multiplication times 1.0 because it could lead somebody in a code review 2 years later to say, why the heck are you multiplying times 1, right? And delete it, right? Like, oh, this guy's an idiot. They multiplied by 1. It may be you, right? You just don't remember who put that line there. And it's fairly common, right? I mean, it's just, so being explicit is good. And that's it, right? How could we use it? Fraction, F1 equals new fraction of, say, 3 and 4, and stuff like system.out.println F1.2 double. If you ever want to play, fraction is actually a good one because you probably remember that stuff from elementary or middle school. So you can write addition and subtraction and multiplication and those. I don't think we use this as an example, right? I use it all the time, but I don't think we did it in one of the assignments, right? It's always a good one. Okay. Who's next? Come. Yeah. How else are you going to project? Your board, your notebook doesn't project very well.
How do I switch back to?
It's Windows tab or
Okay.
Alt tab, I think. It works if you don't think, it works the exact same way.
Okay.
The only annoying thing is that function and control are swapped.
You want me to just make a whole new thing?
Yeah, just on source, right click on it and do thingy.
Over, sorry, where was that at?
There.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay. Come on.
Plus.
All this.
We want the book, right?
I just printed off the thing.
You cheated.
Oh, no,
Good.
there's no answers on here. So I'll be winging it.
No,
completely.
but that's the right way. That's good.
I'm just going to call it interface. Is that cool?
Or no. Or yeah, call it products or something like that.
Products, domain.
And then in there, we actually need. You mind cut and pasting the interface
From up here?
from the example from Chrome? That guy, yes. Hopefully that will actually work.
See? Right.
Yep.
And straight into that.
So we can declare interface inside the class.
I think so. We're gonna try. You can definitely declare a class inside the class.
Yeah.
That actually has a meaning. I think you can also do it.
Okay.
Basically, your interface is always static when you put it. If you're saying you don't.
I think we should create an interface file.
Normally, yes.
Okay.
In real life, yes, you always create separate files.
Okay.
This is just because in a lecture, right? It actually helps if I put everything in one thing, so the whole thing's going to be 50 lines, and you don't have an IDE when you are looking at the notes. In real life, no, you always do it in separate files and follow the structure in folders, the structure of your packages. You actually think about your package names, which we haven't been doing. We just put them wherever. Yes, that's question 2. Create, given that interface, the product interface, create a class called book that's basically implemented. So name, type, and price. For type, you have to return book. For name and price, you pass them into the structure.
Oh, it's so weird. Public. And just assign book for get type.
Yeah. Actually do it. That was the question.
I think so. Let's see, the question was
Yeah.
cool.
So Atlas, Windows says, whatever that portal key is. Thank you. It's cool. Who's next? You are. Actually, can we cheat until yours? No good deed ever goes unpunished. You shouldn't come prepared.
It's gonna get pretty rough. 26 for me at least.
Sorry?
It's gonna start getting rough for me around the question 6.
Oh,
I need to start reviewing that a bit.
so do that in main. Question 3 requires you to create a variable of that type. And do stuff
Okay.
with it, right?
So,
So go down until main
main, okay, yeah,
and do it in
okay.
main. Let that go.
Okay,
Not
yes.
an auto-generated method stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's commented, right? So, I declare a fragment to create a variable called B1 of type book. Name catch. Oh, catch 22 and price 7 point. Java code fragment. How do I start?
Remember, right? Catch 22. No.
Do I need to
didn't
do?
grow up in the US, so they.
Need to do system printout? Print
Sorry?
system print list?
First, declare a variable.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Declare a variable B1 of type.
Oh, okay.
Type book,
Oh, okay.
which is the class that we just defined. No.
Hmm.
Book is your data type, not Boolean.
Oh, okay. So I need to declare a book first, right? Book.
We already declared the class book above. That's what he just did, and I can't
Oh,
remember
okay.
your name. Eddie. That's what Eddie just did.
Oh, okay. So now I need to do
So it's capital B,
B.
capital book. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
No.
the name of the variable.
Variable B. B1.
B1
Yeah. What?
equals
Oh, I could. B1 equals
now you need to create a new book.
new book. Okay. New. This way, right?
Capital book.
Book. Bracket.
And you have to pass the title and the price.
Title and yeah. To pass the catch.
But that's a string, so you have to
Yeah. Comma. Yeah.
You have one new voice message, saved message, due for automatic deletion. Message marked for deletion. Saved message, due for automatic deletion.
Okay.
Hi, message for this is Yamira. This is Yamira. This is Pastor.
delete.
Okay.
It's the exact same thing, they just call it delete.
Okay.
Freaking Apple.
So it's
Ah.
price is double, so I need to double here.
No, you just have to put a constant, right? And it's telling you what's the constant. The price is $10 or something like that. So
Yeah.
you write 10 or 12.
Yeah, no, price is 7.95.
So that's what you do.
Okay. Oh, I have to put the price here?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Have one new voice message and 23 saved messages. You have two voicemail messages which are due for deletion.
Oh, so go above and see if it's.
Due for automatic deletion.
You do have a constructor.
Hi, message resaved.
Ah.
B1 is not used.
For
Okay.
Oh,
automatic
you know what?
Initialize B1.
We need to declare product static or book static. This guy, do static class book.
Class.
Before
Oh.
class.
Yeah. Static.
Yes.
Public static. Right?
Just
Just
yeah, public doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, static. Public doesn't matter because we're using it in the same class.
Oh, okay.
If you don't make your class inside another class static, then every instance will actually keep a reference to the instance of the other class. It's actually really cool. But outside the scope.
It says B1 is not used here.
Sorry?
B1 is not used.
Yeah, it's not used. We just initialized it,
Initial.
right?
Okay.
Actually, it was catch 22, right? Rather than catch. Yeah. But that's okay.
Okay. So catch 22 now, right?
Yeah.
So,
Instead of catch.
okay. 22 is we have a value, right? So how do we do?
Catch dash 22.
Oh,
The string is catch 22,
oh, okay.
which is the name of a famous book that they probably tortured every American in high school.
Oh, okay.
I didn't come to school here until grad school, so I've never actually read it. Sounds interesting. My kid was looking at it the other day.
Okay. So this is done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
The
you.
product first.
You can do that.
Product you want me to do? Okay.
The next question, and actually, while you see it, let me do this. The next question is, given that interface, write a function called average price that takes an array of products and returns a double the average price of the product.
Okay.
Apple tab. I always call that thing the Apple key. It's the Windows key on Windows. It's the command key, I think, for Apple. So you need to write a public static. Okay, but does it take an array of ints?
Let me see. No, it's boot. It's product. But actually, boot.
Not book.
Product. Okay.
Right? Because we could have other implementations of the product interface.
Okay. So in this case, should I? Oh, never mind.
No, that's the way. What were you gonna ask?
I'm thinking, should I put a generic type bracket in there?
That would for this one wouldn't work
Okay.
because you can't just do it for everybody. You need to call get price from this thing. So you would need something that has a get price.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't really use generics. You would use an interface.
Okay.
Probably don't want to use it. And please be nice to my OCD and do ++I rather than I++. We are real programmers here. Real programmers do ++I.
Okay. Sure. Sure. Let me see.
No, just use product.length, right? I mean, you're using it in the for loop.
Yeah, I just want to make it loop.
Just product.length.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you don't need to catch the double because some is already a double.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That should do it.
Sure. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, how would we use this function? We could do something like this, right? Yeah, we can do this. Given that it's the same book. The average is not very useful, but hey. We could actually do here stuff like new book, Harry Potter 1, 12, 32. Now, next one is given the product interface, write a function called highest price product that takes a list of products and returns the product with the highest price. Actually, I'm gonna cheat and later on change the, here I'm using capitals, which is wrong. It's wrong, it doesn't go with the convention. So I'm gonna change my things rather than change my solutions here. Returns a product, highest priced. So we can do product actually if products dot is empty, so we don't, right? Now product expensive equals products dot get 0, and for ah! Ah. What don't you like, Zengi? Oh, I cannot pass an array. An easy way to do it is this. So B1. And then prods of 1. Cool. Java has an integer class with a static method parseInt that takes a string and returns an int. This function throws a number format exception if the string does not represent a valid int. Write a static function called parseInt, which takes 2 arguments, a string and an int, and returns an int. The function calls integer.parseInt handles the exception. If parseInt raises a number format exception, the function would return the default value, right? Now we are defining our own static int parseInt. Oops, we cannot call it default. Value. Default is a reserved keyword in Java, so you cannot use it. It's a variable name. So what are we going to do? Return integer parseInt of s. Right? Almost. What's the problem with this? Oops, s cannot do. That's good. Input. Right? It could throw an exception, right? So we need to wrap it with what?
Try and catch.
Try and catch. And if that happened, what do we do? Return default value. This is not necessarily good code, but it's a good exercise.
In this case, you have to pass in 2 parameters. Therefore, you need to pass a string over it and compare.
Well, the problem is, right, if you pass me a string, but if you pass me Joe instead of an integer, what am I supposed to do? So Java does the right thing for a given interface, right? If you pass me Joe, then I raise an exception because Joe is not an int. Right? So this way, rather than catch the exception, I can pass you a string that maybe is coming from the user, right? I wouldn't pass Joe, but maybe it's something that I just read from the user that may or may not be an int, right? But if it's not an int, then I want to use 12 as the value or something like that.
So if there's no character in the string just like a quotation mark, and some number in there, you can just freely interchangeable with the integers.
What do you mean? No, maybe. No. Let's do string int. Right? I can call it whatever I want. That's a string. It's not an int. It's a bunch of bytes one after the other, but it's a bunch of characters one after the other, right? So I can do int n equals parse int. What's going to be the value of n? 32, right? What if I do this? It's the same, right? Now, are n and my int the same? No, they are a different bunch of bytes, completely different bunch of bytes. Their actual representation as a bunch of bytes is completely different. This is a bunch of 3 bytes, but it's actually a string, so it has who knows what, right? It's a class, so it may have length and other stuff. This is 4 bytes always, and it's 0, 0, 0, and then 32.
Catch is the number format exception. What is the number format exception?
That's the documentation of the method for parse int tells me that it throws a number format exception. That's their own subclass of exception.
You just exception.
That should work. In fact, should work exactly the same, and it will catch any kind of exception. Chances are that if I do this, would run this. Oh. I'm trying to see if it will ever throw. No, I guess it's marked. So even if you get an overflow, it will throw a number format exception. And this will also. Did you have a deeper question about that string versus int things?
No, actually, what I'm trying to say, maybe I didn't make myself clear. What I'm trying to say is string is interchangeable with int as long as it's only numbers in there. Integer numbers means the quotation mark.
No, you can call parse int to go from one to the other. They're not interchangeable. If my function takes an int, I cannot pass a string.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not interchangeable, it's a one-way traffic.
I have parse int that does one-way traffic. I also have toString that does the other way.
Okay.
But I have to explicitly do the things. They are two completely separate things that happen to, in English, be represented the same way, maybe. Right? But there are two different types. In other languages, they are a lot more interchangeable. In Java, they are they're almost completely interchangeable. I'm on a Mac. My fingers know. My fingers know how to do this in Windows and Linux, which has the same thing. Where is that thing? I want to put it on the bottom, please. Oh, dark side. On the bottom. That's the way it should be. Most of your browsers have a JavaScript console. I use Chrome almost exclusively because it has the JavaScript console that I got used to. And now it's a pain to switch to another one. They're all, but in JavaScript, 1, 2, 3 is equal to 1, 2, 3. In Java, you get a syntax error. Those two things, you cannot compare them. But in dynamically programming languages like JavaScript or Python, they sometimes are the same thing. Sometimes they're not. In fact, maybe they are not. If I do 3 equals, then it's not the same. But they are a lot more the same. That's check that they have the same type and the same value. Sort of, kind of.
Exactly the same.
Yes, it's one more equality. One more equality comparison. But anyway, going back to this, right? We just have to do a try catch, and do something else with the catch, right? That's kind of how exceptions work. So another one for, and we can go to it here on the fraction class. Create fraction. So public. And by default, I need to get int numerator, int denominator. So my default would be return new fraction of numerator. But I need to do something special, right? If the denominator is 0, the function will throw an illegal argument exception. So now we're going to do if denominator is 0, how do I throw an exception? Throw, right? Try catch is for catching. Something like that. This is probably complaining because, oh, new.
Is this the one you can also put in, like individually? There was one thing, again, but you could put the exception of row statement as part of the first line, and then like,
Just throw it?
it might not have been through. I remember something on one of the homework assignments.
It was talking about the throw exception after the
Yeah.
You could put throws here.
Okay, yeah, that's
Has an extra S. And that's just telling the compiler, I can throw this exception. They started doing something really cool and really annoying, and then they chickened out. The idea is that if you they said, okay, we are going to check. If you declare that you throw an exception, then I'm going to make whoever calls you have a try catch or declare that it throws the exception, right? And so that would kind of force good engineering practices. That would force you to deal with all the errors, or at least keep track of them. So if I don't deal with it, I have to tell my dad that I may throw an error. But then they chickened out and said, okay, so runtime exceptions will not do that. Because if not, almost every statement could throw an exception. Because when you add up two numbers, they may be too big and you have an overflow, right? And so almost everything would throw an exception. And so they just said, oh, we wanted good engineering practice, but not really. And so they But if the class that you don't do it is not a subclass of runtime exception, then you have to throw it. This is different from throwing the exception. This just says I may or may not throw that exception depending on what you pass me, right? Whereas this one says, no, now I know, throw that exception right now. What do you mean? If you do this, you have to do this, except if it's a runtime exception. For the most part, you try to deal with all exceptions, but in fact, many times that ends up being more work than the happy path. Like you think about any simple function like add a user, right? Okay, think I'm gonna add a user to a website. Let you register, right? Okay, what do I do? Get username, password, stick it into a database, right? The happy path is super simple. And then you start with, oh, but what if that username already exists, right? Then I have to tell you something. And we haven't annoyed the user enough. We want to make sure they use strong passwords and then write them in a notebook because we annoy them enough, right? It's actually horrible. It's not necessarily great security practice, but it's standard industry practice, right? So I'm going to annoy them and kind of, so now you can have another way. Your password is too short or too wimpy or something. And then the real exceptions. The database server isn't there. I'm trying to talk to it, but it actually died. And so when you think about the UI now, oh, the happy path is actually super simple. Just call this function that adds it to the database. But now I have 3 error conditions to deal with different error messages and things like that. And so that ends up being more complicated than the actual happy path many times. But exceptions are great and terrible. Number 6 is fun. Write a function called array frequencies. Let's do it here. Takes a list of strings and returns a map with frequencies. I think we did this for one of the assignments, right? Like that. So
I think one of the examples.
One of the examples, yeah. So map from string to integer, right? Sorry? Yeah, but this is, that's a different, yeah, I think one of the examples or something like that has it, but an extra example for map. So what we are going to do is going to change, and this is complaining because need to import the type, right? So we are going to go through the list. Frequencies. Let's use a hash map. Yay! Now type check. So what do we do? right? We have to go through every string in the list or string, let me call it word. And what I really want to do is to get the value from the map and add 1 to it, right? So I would do map.put on this word map.get word +1. Something's not complaining. Map, okay. Frequencies. I don't know how to write. This is what I want to do, right? So if I had 3, I see it again. Now I just do 3, add 1, 4, and put it there, right? Does that make sense? I'm seeing the wheels turning.
It finally just clicked. I figured out how to do it, but now it makes sense, finally.
The only problem is that I don't know if the thing's already there. So if it's not there, I need to insert a 0, right? Or a 1, depends on. So if frequencies.contains key word, I'm going to do this. Otherwise, that's probably the best way to do it.
I just told myself it's probably way simpler than what I'm trying to do. But then it turned out to be extremely easy.
Usually, but you need to do a million until it's obvious, right? And that's the point. This class should have helped you a lot, but it's not there. When you take data structures, after you do that, then all this stuff is like, since we have time, we have hash map, the 2 useful ones, and tree map. And they both implement a map, so they have get and put and contains key and those things. Tree map uses a balanced tree, so it actually stores them kind of in order, a data structure that does kind of a binary search, but in a tree. They are fairly nice. Hash map uses a hash table. You will see those things in data structures. I just want to prime your brain for the next class.
But that method, I kind of want to refresh my memory. The frequencies that put, that method will override the existing record.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Actually, we can do, and we can use we can define a generic method, void int map. We could do something like this: map from string to int map, right? And go and print stuff in here, right? The problem with something like this is that this would only print maps from string to int. Now, if we do this, we need to go one more level of abstraction. Oh, never mind. It's a void method. So Let's do the right. Add type parameter T1, not the products, no. I messed up the syntax, right? I messed up the syntax as usual.
Space between them?
No, it's not this. It's it goes in a different place. It goes before the return value. It could put it anywhere. So I just wanted to make sure where it was. So what this says is, I don't care what T1 and 2 are, but they are actually types, right? I'm gonna define a method that will work. So I can only call normal stuff that every object has, in a way. So I would do for map of T1, T2 dot key entries. What don't you like, Tanguy? It is the other way around. Oh, map.keys, map.entry. I am an idiot. That's the type of map entries. It's one entry, right? Get key. This syntax is weird. It will not be on the final. So if you're desperately trying to study for the final, forget the syntax. If you're trying to learn, if you're learning programming.
I'm trying to use not eclipse that maybe for dot, use suggestions.
Yes.
Using that for what sort of that?
Just be careful because your piece of paper for the final doesn't have dot completion, doesn't have IntelliSense for auto completion. Now this would allow us to do map of string to integer, and I'm passing here a list. Okay. Get array frequencies. So this creates an array, a list, right? Having 1, 1, 2, 2s, 3, 3s. And so when we do our array frequencies, we'll get 1 with the integer 1. And so we can do print and then write a function called most common word that takes a list of strings and returns the string which occurs more frequently in the list. You can assume the array contains no null values. So what can we do? Call array frequencies, right? And then just iterate through the entry set and see which one has, right? So most common word, public static string, probably not a bad idea to do if words dot is empty. I don't know. We need to keep track of the frequency and the most frequent string. Actually, we don't really need to, right? But we do. Let me do it this way. So for string map dot entry string. Entry dot get value is going to be the frequency, right? If the value is greater than highest frequency, then I know that that's bigger, so I'm going to do actually most frequent equals this thing the value entry dot get key, which is the string, and highest frequency. Then at the end, return most frequent. Something complained. String high frequency. I probably should have created a variable, but I'm not gonna. So then it's this stuff. And we have an hour, right? Do we? Of course, you can always get back 1 hour of your life if you prefer, but if you want to play, we can play. Do you want something in particular? Shall we go to HackerRank and start looking for problems and solving them? Or do you have any particular?
We finally covered everything this semester. Right? Just not mention.
Yeah, I think we did. You can always. By the way, let me remind you guys of one thing. Please, please, please. You should have gotten spam about class surveys. Please fill them out.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you have that about the hybrid one?
Yes.
No, even the ratings.
Either way, if you're online, face-to-face, hybrid, whatever you are, fill out the ratings. And then either there or after, even after the final, if you can think of, and even after a semester or two, right? If you can think of something that was good or was bad, right? Or if you are a year from now, you're somewhere at work and you say, God, how the hell did we not cover this obvious thing, right? Orlando sucks. Shoot me an email, right? And feedback is always useful, and you're doomed. It's not going to help you, but it may help the next batch or the next batch or whatever. And so if you can, I really appreciate the feedback. I always try to find the right balance between, we always want to cover more stuff, right? There is a bunch of other stuff that's like, oh, I want to cover, we didn't cover generics, right? We didn't actually cover this time how to write unit tests, which is very important. It's a very important thing to do. And to me, that is normal, but we didn't cover how to access databases or how to do HTTP and those kinds of things, right? They probably don't go here, but so there's always the, should we spend more time on this or more time on that, and all of that stuff. So if you can think of something, let me know. Always try to balance between, one problem with this particular class, much more this particular, like the grad version, right? The almost grad version of the class, which is what I'm teaching, is that there's a wide variance, right? From people who have never programmed at all to people who have been in the field for 20 years. It's just, you have never taken an actual programming class, but you have been sort of programming for 10 or 20 years. And so how do I make it so that I don't flunk everybody who has never programmed, and at the same time, I don't bore to death all the other people?
You have 2 classes per week.
Probably, maybe. I don't know.
I was trying to enroll.
It may be 2 lectures rather than 1.
2 lectures, probably 2 lectures.
Yes.
More material to cover? Or
No, I don't think. I think this is all the material. Maybe I would get to cover stuff like this. Yeah. They may even flip, and they may actually end up doing it hybrid rather than 2 lectures per week. I have no clue.
So for the final, you said I'm going to attend the class basically every week. Is there a chance like an online final? I'm just asking. How often is this Sunday?
Or this Wednesday a week from today at this same time. Would that work?
Or the coming Sunday?
Or Sunday, yeah.
Because I probably will have some things
We can talk to me later and we can do an online proctoring. I just watch you on the screen while you do it.
Okay.
I I know one thing I liked about this class was I've done a lot of the sort of YouTube tutorials or like Udemy tutorials, and like it gets up to kind of, you know, maybe 3/4 of the way through, and then it's like just skyrockets the level of like understanding. And it's been nice to have people to talk to in the class and then you can talk to and actually answer questions about things. So that's kind of helpful for me. Like I taught myself everything. So that's
having a class rather than, it's very hard to force yourself to watch enough YouTube videos. And I am, hopefully next semester will be even better. I like when it works, it's really nice, the code reviews. It didn't, people use it a lot less than I expected. Many times for good reason, right? I mean, you just did it, it's perfect, there's nothing to, right? But I was expecting a lot more, I'm stuck, here's my pull request, right? Can you help? But the few that worked good. Many times it's just, yeah, your code's good, there's nothing to review, but yeah. Shall we go look at HackerRank stuff and try to solve problems? Sure. Why not? Why, yes. But, arrays. Let's go look at stacks. Stack stuff, right? We never actually use stacks or queues or something like that, right? They look like every other collection, but we can, right? So I have an empty sequence, and I will be given n queries. Each query is one of these types. And get a 1 and then an x, which means push this element into the stack, or a 2, which is delete the element at the top of the stack, or a 3, which is print the maximum element of the stack.
So kind of like
Push and pop, right? And we're actually going to use a stack, so it's more parsing than anything else. And the stack has ints, right? So first line of input contains an integer n, the next n lines contains that query, and I don't need to worry about error handling. And the stack has ints, right? Does this make sense? HackerRank does something different in that they give you basically inputs and outputs as stuff that you read from std, right? But so we can do void interpret or process queries. Let's call them queries. I'm going to pass a scanner. Input has next int. Switch just for fun. Q for the query. Let's do query, right? If case 1. What do we call it? Num. Oh, and we need to create stack s equals new stack of integer. If it's 1, then I'm going to need to read one more, right? And push it onto the stack. That's the push. It was 2 of it. Should we be paranoid and check that it's not empty? Nah. And so let's go do that one. And that we have done 700 times, right? Let's do it again. Stack is a kind of collection, so we can do all this standard stuff, right?
Pretty sure I need to declare the type of the stack.
Yes, not the, yeah, yeah. Oh man, it is not. Oh yeah, I have get. Yeah. So let me do int max is this, and then for int I in s. Element. So save here, and you can. It's just this. Things. Current stacks. Run code. Compile. Static. Static. Okay. Oh. Because the first.
I think you should push first one first.
Need to do in the next. No, because they first write the number of lines, which I'm never use. Okay, so compiled message runtime error. Array index out of range 0. So 10, 197 to 120. Yeah. Out print line So we can debug. What's my output is 1, which is good. Oh, I didn't do breaks in my switch. That's what I get for using a switch statement. So this was actually this good. I did not pass because now I'm printing a bunch of stuff. I printed 26 and 91. It doesn't matter because now I'm ending. I don't know what would Java do. Yay! Well, now let's do the real thing. Okay. While it's doing that stuff, let's go look for more stuff.
So in the data structures course, we'll learn more about first in, first out.
You will actually learn to build these things, to use an array and using basically references and an array, build this kind of stuff, which is cool. And then you will probably, it's also, in a way, data structures become our, an easy way for CS people to have problems that are very simple to express, but hard to program. And so, oh well, it timed out. Oh well, I have no clue what they want because this is normal. Unless you keep them in 2 separate stacks or something like that, there is no, right? I'll play later. Actually, do you guys want to break your mind and do linked lists? Or trees? Do linked lists or trees? Actually, you know which one would be nice? This thing died. So I'm gonna, why? That's your problem. Public type solution should be, okay. If I just do this, then it should work. Yay! If it doesn't complain. Ooh, we can do cool stuff with inheritance and stuff. Let's do this. Public interface. Now, when you think about an arithmetic expression, right? You have is something that's your problem. No. So I could have a class static constant double val. And double eval. If I'm a constant, what do I evaluate to? my value, right? Um, if this becomes interesting. How do I evaluate myself? Does this make sense?
Going up to the constant.
Actually, not necessarily to the constant, to whatever it is. Maybe it's a constant, maybe it's not. Maybe it's another plus. Does this make sense?
So this is inheritance and not polymorphism, right?
Well, polymorphism is the fact that when I call this, right? When I call eval, I don't know which eval I'm calling. Depending on what left is, right? It may call plus dot eval or it may call constant dot eval. That's what polymorphism means. Same name, different things.
But in your case, because that for the expression.
No. Well, calls expression dot eval, but it may be plus dot eval or constant dot eval. Depends on which kind of expression it is.
Wow.
Okay. Do this. I can do this, right? New constant of 4.5, right? That's one way, right? But I can do plus what do I get? First of all, what do I build here? If you think about it, I just built my expression tree, right? I have plus 4.5, 3.4, and plus 4.5, 3.4, right? And let's do 7.9 times 2, so it's 15.8.
Well, so for expression you want that you could, since you created two new constant objects there, so that the new plus is,
Yeah.
Okay, that's an instance. Okay. Oh, never mind. Okay.
Polymorphism is basically when I'm calling expression.eval I don't know what's gonna get called. Maybe this actual method, or maybe this actual method. I don't know which one it gets called. I just call it on an expression, and the right method gets called.
But you determine which one to call based on the
Runtime type.
yeah.
Yes, that is the most common polymorphism. If you ever get in an interview or something like that, when they ask about polymorphism, that's what they mean. Actually, overloading is also polymorphism. Cardelli and those guys defined ad hoc polymorphism is overloading. You have inheritance. I can't remember what they call that as polymorphism. And actually, generic methods are also polymorphism. Different code that gets called depending on. And so we could actually have times, right? It's fairly similar to this. That would bring 24-ish, 23.7 or something like that. When we're actually doing doubles, so we saw that it's not actually quite precise enough. But
I have a kind of sort of off-topic question. For the discrete math class, we did like a timing example. It's a term project, and I wrote a timer around the entire function just to see how long it took for my own curiosity. And sometimes it happened too fast for that to actually happen. Is that just
computers are uber fast, and most of the timing stuff is in milliseconds.
You could call the nanoseconds.
I was doing nanoseconds, and it was still like too fast for that.
Really?
Yeah, it was like
Because it's not true. There is a hardware timer that doesn't really do nanoseconds. So there is a hardware timer that's actually counting outside of the hardware clock, and that hardware clock doesn't really move in nanoseconds.
I think that was maybe the same because of I use nanosecond because maybe my machine is slow, so it gives me numbers.
well, I think it could be because I was like converting it to like milliseconds after it, just for like 3 or 4 days.
But yeah, I times 1,000 convert to microseconds. And it's just
Okay.
But that is actually fairly common. What you do is you run your function a bunch of times.
That's a good time.
Because even if, like, when it starts, you don't really know, right? When you get to that, you don't really know, so you need to run it a bunch of times. But that's cool. They made you program in discrete math. That's good.
They gave us like 2 chunks of pseudocode. Like pick a language go. That's
Cool.
fun.
You guys use Java?
I use Java.
Yeah, good. It makes sense, right? Combine your classes, and you will learn C++ for data structures. It will be fun. Although Java is a fairly nice language, but so in a way, we have seen trees and expression evaluation. If you ever want to have fun, if you're ever looking for fun, look at recursive descent parsers and build something that goes from a string to this thing. Actually, a lot of fun. It's not that hard. And when you get it, you'll be like, oh, it is. The other cool thing that you guys can do, since you took discrete math is also a very good a very good source for problem. You already know the problem. They are relatively simple, but you have a bunch of algorithms for like calculating the time to disclosure or something like that, right? And so you can implement those algorithms in Java and, and review both at the same time. Any other cool stuff? Any other cool example that you guys think would be cool?
Maybe this isn't hard, but let's say you want to, I know Java's got a pin.
Yeah.
Thing you call. Let's say you wanted to make a pretend statement, but you wanted to make it so it could take in any value, including like arrays or just like single primitives.
Append.
So like, yeah, let's say you have like, I don't know, like I said, it's like the sky is blue. You want to put what sky or something in front of the sky is blue. So you, instead of appending, you want to prepend to it.
Prepend. Right. What? So public static. It's always returns a string.
Well, it can return. I guess for simplicity, yeah, it would return a string, but it could return anything made out of it.
String.
String is good.
But
Yeah, it's like a pin, but for the front.
Okay.
or do you want to do it with like a list or something like that?
List would be cool.
Okay. Now we can actually play with those things. Let's do array list. Prepend. Okay, and we are gonna do something like this. Okay, part list. Did I still do this the right thing? Did it the wrong way? Oh, okay. Life is good. No, but it actually should be void, right? What we want to do is to add it here, right?
Right. So you would add it, and then you would, I guess, call it later.
You would move everybody else, right?
Right.
Okay. So we can add it. We can do l.add lm. Just wrong. We added it at the. That gives us now for less than l.size -1. L dot put. We have put unless I cannot just change. They probably have their own thing. But, we have add in. Oh, it does it.
Nice.
And just add 0 the element, and that would work.
It's always easy.
Yeah, many times they do because they can do these kinds of things a lot faster than if you would do it, because this would probably give you like an order of n squared. So Just so it doesn't. Oh. I would just do l.add 0, 11. That would do it.
And like,
And actually, if you go look at all the other collections, there is a, because this still, they have to do that. They have to move it. There is a double-ended queue, which is efficient to do both. So inserting at the beginning when you have an array requires you to move everything. And so this has better ways of doing it without sucking.
right. Okay.
One more question. In your examples, I see you moving one class file, you put another class. Is that a common practice?
No, never do that. We just do it because
Or to put it together?
I want to put them together and give you a file that has 25 lines rather than give you 3 files. And I'm always, when I see examples, so I always do it like that just for purposes of this class. No, normally you create separate files almost always. Yeah. It also makes it easy to find. When you have the name of a class, you go, right, you find the file with that same name. So it makes it easy to find. Makes it really hard to find when you don't have it. Even though it sometimes feels dumb. Like if I do an interface with 3 methods, right, my file is actually 5 lines long. Isn't this dumb? Yes, it is, but on the other hand, makes it fairly easy to find what it is, as opposed to somebody's calling this method, where the heck is it? And your IDE will help you many times, but not always. So having it easy to find, yeah. Don't do that. I do it only for this class. It's a bad idea. Don't do it. Yeah. The other interesting examples. Go look at these things again. Ooh, heaps were pretty. Or shall we just go? Shall we just go home? 25 minutes early. Yeah. Yeah. I will see you guys on Sunday or Wednesday. I'll send an email right now and ask you to tell me when are you coming and that kind of stuff. Cool. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you soon.